Welcome to Almost Here, Round the Corner Future Technology podcasts with Richard Jacobs. Future technologies poised to transform our lives for better or worse are the focus of this podcast. Almost here means these technologies are now here and starting to be used, or just around the corner, from Bitcoin to artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Future Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Juliette Lamar, and we have with us on the line Cyrus Taghehchian, and he is the CEO at Spl.yt. Welcome, Cyrus.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Juliette. Really excited to be here.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear about Spl.yt, or Spl.yt. Explain yourself.
Yeah. So, it all starts with all of my experiences that led up to, these centralization of power that create inefficiencies and ineffectiveness in delivering value to consumers. And over the past few years, I've been spending a lot of time with digital marketing and e-commerce clients. I'm at Deloitte Consulting alum, and been working with Fortune 500 companies with their digital marketing and e-commerce needs. And one thing that I started to realize is that the whole market is inefficient, and one of the catalysts in building Spl.yt was to alleviate these inefficiencies caused by intermediaries or all these middlemen. And the middlemen, I've realized it's not necessarily people, but it's also applications or services that charge or take a cut out of every transaction. And this increases prices for buyers. It inhibits other innovative or future marketplaces for competing with such big corporations like Amazon or Alibaba or Walmart. And there's no fair opportunity. And, being an entrepreneur and coming up through my generation, I guess I'm at the tail end of being a millennial. I got another year or 2 years left. Wanted to create a way to alleviate some of these frictions that were caused by these intermediaries, and create fair opportunity for anybody to have a transparent, secure, and online shopping experience. Because who doesn't love online shopping, right?
If I love it, it's a problem.
Yeah. So, in short, Spl.yt is, the way we're doing it, we're connecting the world's inventory to the blockchain. And this creates a more efficient e-commerce system because we can remove these intermediaries, and this, in result, saves buyers and sellers time and money. And then we have this really cool mechanic that incentivizes good behavior that ensures secure and fair transactions, meaning that you're not going to get scammed or there's no fraud or spam that you're going to have to deal with. Such places like sometimes when you're buying from Amazon third-party sellers or Craigslist, it's riddled with fraud and spam. So, we have a protocol, and there we could get into more specifics later on about how we prevent these from happening and creating a fair, open, and secure e-commerce ecosystem.
And e-commerce, people are like, oh, e-commerce is the future. No, e-commerce is now. I cannot go a day without being on Amazon for something, right? And whether it is, a very specialty item I'm looking for, or it's something like, oh, crap, we're out of paper towels again. This week is so jammed, I don't have time to go to the store. And, this is our lives now. So having something that could potentially decentralize the e-commerce system and be able to hopefully pass on the savings to consumers and to people creating the goods is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there is a statistic that e-commerce is the fastest growing industry and one of the largest, destined to hit over $4 trillion in the next few years. And guess what? Amazon, Walmart, and eBay comprise of almost 60% of the U.S. market share, which could cause higher prices and exploitation and censorship of other players who are trying just to make a living.
Yeah, and it's because of the just speaking strictly for myself, it's a trust thing, right? Like I go to Amazon because I know, okay, if I buy a pair of shoes that I hate, I can return it, no issues, it's going to be fast and easy. And just because it's now becoming so analogous with like Google, I go online, I Google it, you need to buy something online, you go to Amazon or Walmart. And, it is kind of unfair. And I think that it is the trust thing, though. You trust Google to give you a good answer. You trust Amazon to fulfill your product or to fix it if something goes wrong. So how do we give the little guys a chance?
Yeah. So, for the blockchain initiated, there's something called trustless. And for the non-blockchain initiated, this essentially means that we build a governance and guardrails of essentially the rules of how a transaction will happen online. And this ensures that the other party cannot fraud or not give you proper service because you're protected by these guardrails. And they're implemented in code as smart contracts, essentially giving the confidence and security needed for a buyer to know that they're not going to lose out on something they bought. For example, let's talk about how it works at Spl.yt. Anything anybody buys in this decentralized ecosystem, money gets put into escrow, meaning like my money doesn't actually go to Amazon or the buyer. It goes into an escrow contract, and that money sits in escrow until I receive my item. Once I receive my item and I think it's okay, or after a certain period of time passes, then the monies get released to the seller. Now, if there is a dispute or I didn't get my item or whatever, I can then create a dispute claim, and the dispute claim says that, hey, I didn't get my item. Now, the seller could come back, because, we want to prevent sellers also getting frauded, and seller could come back, no, I'm pretty confident I did ship it to you. I am confident I shipped it to you, and, here's the tracking number. I put up a little bit of money, into this escrow contract as a stake to say, in good faith, this money will be returned to me, because if I'm right, but I'm putting this little money up there because I know it was sent to you. Now, the buyer could come back and say, absolutely not, I never got it. And they could counter stake against the seller and say, you know what, I didn't get it. And these are going to be small numbers. You don't want to inconvenience buyers, having to front a lot of money. And, we're still hypothesis testing what are those exact numbers that will be the most efficient and effective. But this counter stake will then, tell the seller, hey, the buyer actually thinks, they didn't get it, or they actually didn't get it. This prevents, this puts money on the line for both the buyer and the seller, and it prevents either the buyer or the seller frauding each other. And then at that point, if both of them stake each other, we send it to an alternative dispute resolution through an arbitration. So essentially, it's kind of like jury duty. We have arbitrators on our network, and we randomly assign one or multiple arbitrators depending on the size of the transaction. The higher the value, you might get a few more people to remove any type of biases. And then, you submit your documents and your claim, and the dispute resolution happens. And this all happens, within the span of a week. And you don't have to deal with talking to a person or whatever, Amazon customer service. It's all baked in to the user experience and protocol, ensuring that, if I didn't get something, that money can't just be taken by the seller and they run away. So I remember this system before the eBay days. There was an escrow, before the PayPal days, there was an escrow service. And then it just disappeared because PayPal started manufacturing that trust. Essentially what you were saying, it's all about trust. And the system that we're creating is removing the need for trust, that I need to trust an Amazon because I know they're not going to steal my money, or they're going to refund me if one of their third-party vendors steals my money or frauds me out of my money. It's all baked into the protocol, and the money sits in an escrow contract until a dispute has been resolved. And in order to dispute, to be in part of the dispute, you have to stake a lot of money. And this creates, insurances for, the buyer, the seller, to know that, hey, I'm confident that I'm going to win. I'm putting money in, and if I lose, the other party wins. So there is a punishment for frauding the other person that disincentivizes people from, spamming and frauding the network. So that's how we're evolving e-commerce today, without the use of intermediaries or you needing an Amazon to be able to manufacture that trust so people will come and buy from your store.
I feel like that's a really good solution. And I'm also thinking that there's people out there thinking, okay, what is the amount of money I can put up as a bluff, kind of like in poker, right? And you're probably going to run into something like that as well at some point, where people will say, well, they're trying to fraud, and they say, okay, what's the amount that's going to make it look like I'm not trying to fraud them? So you're still going to be a little bit diligent on that point.
That's an absolutely fair point, and there's probabilities that go into this as well. So by nature, I'm a nerd and technology geek, but I also have a degree in economics and statistics and econometrics. So a lot of thought has gone into this, and there is no solution right away. And you'll know this from you'll see this from a lot of blockchain startups. A lot of this is hypothesis tests, right? So you're going to have to go in and get the feedback and see what happens. So there's two guiding principles, at least from the onset, that we're going with our hypothesis. A is that the buyer and the seller would have to stake the same amount, meaning that if the buyer could come in and put more money in, or the seller could come in and bully the buyer by putting in a higher amount in for them not to actually counter stake, that defeats the whole purpose. Or if one person has to put in more money, then I have an incentive, because of statistics and probability, to continually take on that bid, because over time I would make more money. So what we're creating is again, this goes back into the guardrails that we're creating. It's a fair protocol where the amount of money has to be the same from both sides, meaning I can't even put in more money than if I wanted to. But finding that exact amount, is going to require some testing, and this is why we created Spl.yt as a open source nonprofit. We're non-biased, nonpartisan, and going with the open source movement to have other people use, test, and contribute to building a more safe, secure, and optimal system.
And just getting multiple different viewpoints, having it open source is such a great way to generate more ideas and to draw upon the creativity of so many other people.
Absolutely.
So tell us a bit more
our
about
goal.
Global. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, our goal as a nonprofit and open source, and that's really important. That we're trying to provide a publicly accessible social utility, meaning that this is for the people, by the people. We believe at Spl.yt that anyone should be in control and be empowered to own their e-commerce and online shopping experience. So we recognize the importance to be able to get the creativity, innovation, and community involved in building something, because it's going to be used by them. And over the next 5 to 7 years, just kind of like the Bitcoin, when Bitcoin started with Satoshi, whoever he or she or them were, and how they don't have a lot of say into the protocol, although there's a lot of things we learn with their governance models and being able to, decide on how to move forward. I mean, that's a whole nother subject on itself. We want to work ourselves out of a job, or at least work ourselves to minimal involvement, where this is a self-sustaining ecosystem by people contributing and making a better and safer e-commerce online shopping experience.
So let's talk a little bit about your global inventory listings.
Sure. So, this is where it all starts. So what we realized is that, some of these smaller players can't grow into other customer segments, grow their revenues, smaller players as in marketplaces or sellers, because they don't have access to the inventory supply chain, or even a college kid. I remember when I was in college many years ago, where I wanted to, sell T-shirts and textbooks and make some extra cash, just to survive or have enough money to take, somebody out on a date, that type of stuff. And, in today's world, it's really hard to be able to create a profitable business without giving up large percentages of your income as commissions or fees to these big players like Amazon. So, we thought that if you could pool and create a healthy competition with the smaller players, I can then sell other people's inventory. They could sell my inventory, and we all could then create this non-zero sum game, which essentially means that there is enough for everybody to be able to make healthy profits. And blockchain really made this possible by their distributed ledger technology. And essentially what a blockchain does is it's a ledger or database, and there's a copy of it on every computer that's running the blockchain. So we thought that if we could connect every marketplace or seller, big or small, to our protocol, that inventory will then automatically populate into each other's marketplace. And then we could create this whole new network of affiliate sales, and all the monies will be automated and trustless and transparent because they're going through the blockchain as smart contracts. So when I know I sell something of somebody else's, I know I'm going to get my commission. So we're solving two birds with one stone with this global inventory. One is a publicly accessible inventory database that anybody could connect to for free and be able to sell items and start making a living. And two, create this new affiliate network system with automated affiliate reward payments that I don't have to worry about invoicing or creating other systems that track these affiliate sales. So I know I'm not getting frauded out of my, well-deserved commissions. So that was the inspiration behind creating this global inventory.
Very cool. And you guys have also an app, is that correct? Or is that incorrect?
Yeah. So it's a good question, and I'm glad that we're bringing this up now. So Spl.yt's not an app. We're not necessarily building an app. What we're building is a SDK, software development kit, and easy ways for any marketplace, small or big, using Shopify, WooCommerce, or if you have your own custom e-commerce stack, to be able to connect to the blockchain. So think of a e-commerce as the city, and you have these buildings and cars and people, walking around and buying things. And then think of Spl.yt as the piping underneath the city that makes everybody interconnected and creating this peer-to-peer network and decentralized information and data within this ecosystem. So essentially, like what I like to brand Spl.yt as a new internet for shopping. That's what we're creating. We're enabling and empowering other sellers and marketplaces to connect to Spl.yt to be able to build more effective, efficient marketplaces with our innovative tools.
That's a great way to explain it. I really like the visual of the houses, and then you see the piping underneath, and it exists there, but it's running seamlessly.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we want to empower other marketplaces to be able to, take control of their online e-commerce stack and not, have to give out large commissions to, intermediaries or middlemen taking out large commissions. What we want to create is a way that everything that happens on the blockchain, you don't even know it's happening, right? So the best user experience, in my opinion, for adopting blockchain and its technology is that when a consumer comes in, they're able to reap the rewards and benefits of using blockchain, such as the transparency, immutability, security, but they don't have to go through all these random strings of characters or passphrases or wallets or whatever it may be. So we're really working on bringing this, blockchain technology without losing the user experience that people have become accustomed to over the years. So the best way to look at Spl.yt is, you're going to see a website, and then you'll see a little badge saying that it's Spl.yt powered, and that badge will give consumers and buyers confidence, knowing that when they buy something from the Spl.yt powered marketplace, that their money isn't going to be stolen, or there's not going to be any type of fraud or spam, which we haven't talked about, that we have a whole network of validators that go and look at the integrity of the listing base to ensure that there is no spam or frauds, and incentivizing them to do so when they, identify it. It works similar to the whole dispute mechanism with the buyer and seller. that's basically all a consumer will see. It's a Split badge saying that this is, this marketplace is powered by Split. So when I go in there, we're working with ways to, let anybody pay with any type of currency they want, whether if it's going to be, a digital currency or fiat currency, credit cards, and then everything else then just pipes through the blockchain and then comes out on the other side as you get your product. That's the world we see, in the medium term with Split.
That's awesome. And how can people, what's the best way to start getting involved, get connected, and learn more about Split?
Yeah, so, right now, visit our website, Spl.yt. We have tons of information. Join our Telegram. We have a very vibrant community, with such people from representation from Pivx and Salt, who have said this is one of the best online communities out there. We're really responsive, love to answer questions. For developers or for marketplaces who are interested in connecting, we have a devs page, a page dedicated just to developers and people who run e-commerce shops. And if they go to spl.yt, our website, and click on the devs tab, there is a list of ways that you could start using our technology, and people could start experimenting and connecting with it. And if there's any questions, we're here to help. We have a support team and a tech team where, if you have questions on how to connect or, what is this blockchain stuff, or how do I connect the blockchain to my e-commerce store, everything is, all the resources and information and support links are in our devs page.
Fantastic. Cyrus, thank you so much for joining us today and really offering us a new way to look at e-commerce and the potential of it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Juliet.
That was Cyrus Taghehchian. He is the CEO at Spl.yt. That's spl.yt. Check them out. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This has been Juliet Lamar with Future Tech Podcast.
You have been listening to Almost Here, Around the Corner Future Technology Podcast with Richard Jacobs. Subscribe to this podcast, post a review to discover more future technologies that are poised to transform our lives for better or worse, such as Bitcoin, artificial intelligence, 3D printing, blockchain, virtual reality, and more.